Welcome back to the Been There Felt That podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Daniella Milani. Thank you for being on episode 5 and my 4th guest and the first female of the podcast.
I am honored. Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to dive straight into it. What were you like in your 20s comparing to your life now and the person you are, and what would you have told your younger self or have done differently?
Jeez, I'm not starting off easy, are you? I'll be honest, until like a couple of years ago, I thought, just for reference, by the way, I'm 31. And clearly that's where the question is going. Honestly speaking, until like a couple of years ago, I thought I was a normal 20-year-old, like went through my 20s pretty average until I did some like reflection and just realized how many things that I could have done better and grown in and been more open-minded in. Coming from a small town, you're not as exposed to a lot of things as what you are when you grow up in the city, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it helps me to be a lot more, in the best kind of way, naive to a lot of things. So it doesn't like taint you. It doesn't take away that like childhood. You don't grow up too quickly, if that makes sense.
No, of course.
So in my 20s, I thought I was easygoing, very nice, until like you sit and have like a chat to like old friends and you're like, okay, maybe I was a little bit of a whirlwind. Maybe I wasn't that great. But I think I've always stayed pretty much true to my morals and the way I have been brought up. I have failed a couple of times, but I think that's also part of growing up. And as long as you learn from it, how bad can it really be? Do you know what I mean? We all have to make mistakes to be better, because if you don't make mistakes, you don't get better. You literally just like are on a plateau. And if you just follow what everyone else says and don't learn for yourself, it won't really stick. That's one thing I have realized is, you know, parents give you advice, family members give you advice, friends give you advice. And if you just keep taking their advice without like making your own little stamp on it, you actually don't realize why. You don't realize why you're doing it. Why are you making that decision compared to that decision? You kind of lose your independent likeness, if that's not even a word. But yeah, you do if you don't understand the full concept of what choices you're making. So I would say I'm better now, a lot better through a lot of hard work, a lot of like different situations that I find myself in, trying different ways of handling situations. So yeah, that's pretty, I would say in a nutshell.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. I think I really enjoy the perspective of when you say like what your parents, the morals, the values that they might push on upon you, or what you think is the right thing from a younger age. And now a quick background check is that I know you're a flight attendant for the airline Lyft. Was that something that your parents ever pushed, or something that you naturally grown towards?
I'll be honest, I've been such a lucky child. My parents never pushed me to do anything, which has its cons as well, but they've always been pretty much supportive of whatever I do and whichever direction I go into. I actually started studying fashion design and then realized it wasn't for me. And then I stopped 6 months down the line. And then I was like, hey, somebody paid me to travel. And I was like, whoa. And then the whole flight attendant thing came along. And I mean, it was never a passion. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. I always wanted to travel as what anybody does. And I was just like, bonus, somebody pays me to do it. But yeah, no, they never pushed me into it. I did grow up around planes and stuff because my dad's a flight instructor. So I always enjoyed aviation and more so the technical side of it, compared to like, oh my gosh, I love people. Love working with people. But yeah, so it wasn't something that they pushed me into. It is, how can I say, the best, worst mistake I've ever made, because it definitely helped with a lot of like, uncomfortable situations that helped me grow a lot, like so many. I learned, I must say, a lot of my strength now I give to being a flight attendant and being out on your own. Literally, you're out on your own. You've never felt so lonely amongst a group of people in your life. It's different.
I can imagine that, because it's people of different cultures and people that are from different upbringings. But I mean, the traveling experience, like you said, everyone's dream, except you're getting paid for it. What did you find like the experience like of working on the plane, but then also having that freedom of going around to the countries you visit, and what was your favorite country and like the least favorite country?
So the freedom of like going around is sounds so boring, but it's great traveling to the different countries. The company that I worked for was a charter company, so you don't necessarily go to all the fancy places or anything like that. That you go where the client is. So like Iraq, like Somalia. So not your higher echelon places, but we did get to travel to a couple of cool places like Greece and Dubai and Turkey. So that's fun. Greece is still my favorite, absolute favorite. Go there. It's amazing. It really is. I don't know what it is. If it's the air, it's just something. There's something. But you're saying the travel experience. It's fun. It's hard work. Nobody realizes what kind of hard work it is. It's draining. Dealing with people consistently, like up and down, up and down. I mean, you can work a 13-hour shift and everyone's like, yeah, 13 hours, that's fine. But it's pressurization that gets you tired and down. I mean, you don't get chance to actually just breathe. You're always busy. You have to keep yourself busy, because if you don't keep yourself busy and you take a moment to like stand, you actually get tired. Specifically, like, we used to work in the evening, start at like 10 o'clock in the evening, end at 7 o'clock the next morning. That also messes with your sleeping patterns. And then by the time you land, you want to go explore, but you're exhausted. And you have to manage all of that so that you can be efficient at your job, but also experience the place that you're at. So that is challenging. I like sleep. I really do. So it was very tough for me to like just bite the bullet and just like go explore. So it was fun. It was really, really fun. When I was younger, it started becoming a bit tedious as I grew older in the industry, primarily because it wasn't my passion. And because when you see like over 300 people daily, because I mean the aircraft takes 182, and then you can fly sometimes 4 sectors, so it's like up, down, up, down, up, down. So if you see over like 300 people daily, you remember every single face that boards, every single face that disembarks. And I mean, the chances of them complaining are more so than not. It's the ones that don't complain that make it worthwhile.
I was going to say on that, the amount of people you have to deal with, and I mean, you and me can both agree, and most people are hard work, and people always say I love or hate people, like animals are where it's at. Yes. But now that amount of people and the way people speak to you and the experience you have with them, whether negative or bad, I can only imagine the pressure on, you're just trying to do your job, but to them it's this act of service. They pay for what the customer's always right. And it's a very brutal thing, because you get the sharper people that are, I deserve this, or the low income people that don't know how to. You got to show them how like an airline works or how the airport works. So on that topic, moving on from your being an air hostess or flight attendant to now you own your own business.
Yes.
And elaborate more on that big change and the company and running it and what made you do that. And I know that is more towards your passion.
So, I mean, for a long time in the airline industry, I just felt like I wasn't reaching my full potential and that there was something missing, even though I did enjoy, like, a good flight makes it worthwhile. A bad flight makes it really tedious. But the bad was outweighing the good in a lot of aspects, like not being able to make family dinners, or sometimes working on Christmas, or not being there for a friend's birthday year after year after year, the same friend. That started taking a toll as I got older. So I've been looking for something for the last, I would say, like 5 years or so, just that I can migrate into something that doesn't require a large amount of capital, but that I can still do alongside flying. And that's how I stumbled across my business now, which is called Flippers, where we restore mid-century vintage and retro furniture. I never wanted to go into furniture. My mom was in furniture. I never wanted to go into furniture, but because she had all her old stock, I was like, okay, I don't need like a lot of capital. I've got the items. I just need to restore them and sell them. And then my grandpa and my grandma passed away, and then I got an inheritance, and I was like, okay, well, hectic. I mean, I don't want anything from you guys. I kind of just want you. But I decided to use that inheritance to buy a company called Flippers, which allowed me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do, but on a larger scale with a very large audience. That's a roller coaster ride on its absolute own. But, you know, everyone that asks me about it, still to this day, even with all the dips, the major challenges, I wouldn't change it. I have no regrets of leaving the airline industry and migrating into this because it's more so in tune with me. I like being very creative and artistic and building stuff and fixing stuff and reusing stuff, because I mean, we need to recycle, but I'm not good at like recycling, but like reusing old items, making them new, giving them new life. It's definitely something I am passionate about, even in my like own daily living.
Of course, and that's magical because I never knew this when I first met you, but the more getting close with you and more part of my life, realizing running a company as well, it shows you how much you're capable of. Like when you said the full potential, you weren't hitting it as a flight attendant, and you know that really does bring a spark in you. And now it's a change of scenery with the people you have to manage. Now you got to handle it more from a perspective of it's you. You have every choice to say it's not you working for an airline. So now my question that comes into that is, how do you deal with that pressure of almost having to have it figured out, almost running it alone, even though you know you really took it over? How do you remind yourself like that it is possible, that your goal and your why and the reason you're doing it, how do you stick with that? Because a lot of people give up on something when they start it, and you are just constantly trying to grow and grow and grow, which I think the modern world is really struggling with.
Yeah, I have no recipe for that. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a literal daily struggle. It's literally, you know, sometimes you're doing it alone and you're like, why did I choose this? And then you're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. And then I'm like, okay, but in a year or two, I could be somewhere else, and I don't have to be here if I just keep working hard. I think the best solution for myself, I can't speak for everyone else, is literally choosing it every day. That's the only way. Because for me, I'm a type of person that gets overwhelmed very quickly. My brain is foggy 99.9% of the time. So if there are too many things coming at me, I literally shove my head in the sand and I'm like, oh my gosh, go away. So if I don't take it a little bit by little bit and just be like, okay, cool, today we want to achieve this. If I don't do that, then I don't do anything. I almost get like, what do you call it? Like I freeze up, and I don't end up doing anything. So I don't have it figured out. I don't know how to run a business. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just try and talk to as many people as I possibly can to get, you know, information or their perspective. Not necessarily people that are affluent or anything like that, because I don't want just one kind of perspective, because I'm not there yet. It is the goal that I want to achieve, but also just to hear from everyone, from small businesses, from people running, I mean, million rand like industries. It's very tough, and basically the whole point of all of them is everyone started somewhere. Literally, they just started. I think if you read any form of blog about any like millionaire or anything, you just have to start, you know. And I think for me, I'm a little bit hard-headed where I don't allow things to fail. And sometimes you do need to allow them to fail to see, okay, that's not where your time is at. You need to move this way. So I'm struggling with that at the moment, because I just don't give up. Like, even if I don't feel well today, tomorrow I'll be like, okay, we're going to try again. There has to be a solution to this problem. We will figure it out. And I think for me, my weakness at the moment is just learning when to give up. It's not that you're giving up completely. You're just shifting your focus onto something more worthwhile, more in tune with the direction that the universe has for you. And that's difficult.
No, of course it's difficult. And I really like when you say it's the not giving up, but there's days where you can't give it. And I really love, it's not per se a saying, but it's something a lot of people live by, is if you only have 40% to give on a day and you give that 40%, you still gave your 100%, which I think people need to realize. You're not quitting, you're learning to rest instead of doing that. And to touch on, when you say you feel very overwhelmed, would you say it comes from a place of overthinking and a bit of anxiety?
No, option D, all of the above. Literally all of the above. When I was younger, I was never an overthinker. I was more just like a go-getter, like, yes, this is this, and I'm gonna do this. And I don't know if it came with like adolescence or when it actually started, but I do like struggle with a lot of anxiety and a lot of overthinking. I overanalyze everything. I will think for you and how you're gonna react to what I'm gonna say, and I haven't even spoken to you yet. I already know you're upset with me. Done, you're upset, and I'm the worst person in the world because that's what I know. And honestly, like a lot of the times when I do like bring up the courage to actually like communicate, it never happens like that. It's always way worse in my mind. And I think it also comes from a place of being really hard on yourself, and always judging yourself for whatever you do. But I'm not saying I'm better. I really am not. I'm trying. But it is rather tough. It's rather tough to remove yourself out of a situation and in the nicest possible way be like, you're not that important. I mean, that's the one thing my therapist said to me, and it was the best advice he ever gave me, because I said to him, I was like, I'm struggling with taking everything to heart. Everything. Like the way someone looks at me, if I can't commit to something, because you've asked me to do it, I already get upset and like anxiety ridden and all of that. And he's like, Dan, in all honesty, like, not taking away from who you are, but you're not that important in somebody else's life. You're really not. So you can't make it all about you. And that is something I try and practice a lot of. I still fail at it sometimes, because it's also to realize people have other shit going on. Like, my thinking or stance on what we've discussed, you probably haven't even thought about, because you're figuring out what's your next move, where you going, whatever is going on in your life. And here I'm like sitting ill in the corner because Sabin's going to be upset with me. And I'm like, I'm just going to cry. It needs to end and all of that. So it's a harsh reality. You're really not that important in everyone's lives.
That's absolutely brilliant, because therapists have such a great way of putting things, telling you what you need to hear. It's a person not involved in your life directly, but they understand your problem somehow. And I like what you said with yours, is saying that you're not that important, because in reality, a lot of people are thinking about themselves than you know.
Yeah.
Everyone does have their own problems, and they're more thinking about their circumstances. And to tie that to when you said the fear came with adolescence, like you were a go-getter when you were a kid. It's very weird how when we're younger, like we learned to walk before we knew what walking was. We learned to speak before we knew what words were. We would go play in the mud, or go do activities with risk. But somewhere along the line, it just picks up where we adapt anxiety, fear, this scariness of the world, which is only natural. How did you, besides the therapy, and you say you try, and it's important that you do try. I think a lot of people rather just, oh, I'm anxious, or oh, I'm an overthinker. They kind of accept it. But to be better, you kind of have to acknowledge, be conscious about it. What can I change? What words, what actions can I do? Are there any things that you use to kind of self-regulate or cope? Because I know a lot of people have different coping mechanisms or different ways to try and be like, okay, I'm feeling like this. How do I remove that feeling or step away from it?
Honestly, I try to self-regulate, and then you go on Instagram and listen, they have the world of knowledge there, and you go on a downward spiral. But for me, no offense to anyone that does it, the whole journaling thing and the meditating, it just doesn't work for me. And I ended up feeling pressure going through all those stories or those posts, because I'm like, oh, then there must be something wrong with me. If everyone can do it and I can't do it, then I'm not part of the cool kids club that meditates or wakes up at 5 a.m. or all of that. And for a lot of people that works, and it fulfills the needs that they need to cope with things or make it through the day. And that just didn't work for me. And I was just like, I was also beating myself up about that, because like, now you're not part of that. How can you not be part of that? And the only way I started becoming more aware of my actions and, you know, the anxiety that I go through is when I got older and started realizing, hey, okay, taking a step back, being like, okay, the only consistent thing in all these situations is me. So therefore, I am the problem. Like, I'm not a bad person, but I'm a problem. I'm problematic. And I honestly went to therapy to be like, I know what, I'm not an idiot. I know what my problems are. I just don't know how to deal with them. I know what my weaknesses are. I know what my strengths are, but I don't have the knowledge and capacity on how to deal with it. I just need like a starting point. And honestly, Anthony, who's my therapist, he helped me a lot with coping mechanisms, and not stuff like, I went to a life coach and he's like, yo, when you feel anxious, you must tap here and tap here and tap here. And I'm like, brother, I can't even remember that combination right after you said it. How on earth, when I am anxiety ridden and I'm shaking and I can't breathe, am I supposed to remember to tap my forehead? No, that doesn't work. I've seen it everywhere. It's really not a great, imagine like fighting with you and being like, okay, cool. It's like, no, that doesn't work. There's a lot of like little things that I have implemented in my own life that hasn't come from somebody telling me to do it. It's actually quite a little bit of a joke, but it's the only way I'm able to process things. So I know, like, if I'm in a heated argument, I speak with emotion. So I never end up getting my point across. So I'm just like, this is useless. Because now I'm shouting at you, you're shouting at me, we're making noise, and there's no solution to this problem, and we're both going to walk away, and the thing is still going to be there. So what I started implementing in my own life, and could be a little nerdy, I guess, is when we have a disagreement, instead of me like lashing out right now, I take a step back as much as I possibly can, because I also don't do well at it. And then I open my notes, and in the moment, I don't talk to anyone else. I write down exactly how I feel, the emotional, everything down. And then the next day, I read through it again and say, okay, cool. Does this get to the point that I'm trying to make, or the reason why I'm upset, or what does this whole situation like actually give you? And 99% of the time, it's nothing near what I'm trying to get across. And then I edit it and I write down, okay, so, because I also forget my emotion. I really do. I don't have the capacity to keep it for that long. So I remember that I'm angry, but I don't remember about what, because I forget about it. And then in that little snippet or write-up, I take out the emotion and still keep the anger and say, okay, I am upset about A, B, and C because of this, because this was done, so that I actually get my point across, instead of just like shouting and being upset and hysterical and crying, and then I don't even remember what I'm upset about because I'm tired, because I've just cried my eyes out, and then we get nowhere. So, I mean, that also for me is like a form of growth, because I come from a house where people shout at each other all the time, and every time someone shouts, I just hear emptiness, like absolute emptiness. And I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, what did you achieve? You just like scolded each other for no reason. And I like to solve problems. It helps with my anxiety a lot to better understand a situation and solve it, because anxiety always comes from the unknown. You're anxious about something you don't know about. So if I'm assuming you're some type of way, but I don't know, I'm anxious already. But if I know you're calm and receptive to what I'm going to say and all of that, then it helps. You need to ask those questions to manage your anxiety.
That's very true. I mean, reassurance and clarity is a big thing in the human nature. We always want to have answers and know what can solve a problem. On that, I remembered a quote or saying of, with anxiety, worrying is only worshipping the problem. The more you worry about something that may never happen, the more you're praising this problem that doesn't exist. But anxiety is such a big thing because it is the fear of the unknown, like you said. And especially when it comes to arguments, like you say, solving it now, there's a lot of people in the world that enjoy their let me take a step back, I'll talk to you in a few minutes or days, and they won't understand what the other person is kind of going through, that what they need. It's all a little bit of a selfish feeling. And you are correct about the emotions. I do feel people react, not respond. How did you get, because I really do believe a lot of, not just women or men, the entire world do struggle of, this emotion is what I fear, like you said, how you handle it. But in that moment before the notes, how do you kind of recognize someone else's emotions? Do you take that in consideration first, or are you doing your thing first?
I generally put them first.
Okay.
It's always easy to fix someone else compared to yourself. So for me, it's always been so easy, almost like breathing, to be like, okay, you're upset, let me fix you. I need to be focused on you, forget about me. And then that is also not great, because you forget about you. And you being better at being you is good for them, if they're the right person you need to be with or surround yourself with. So that's also something I had to learn, is that I also need to be considerate of me and my feelings. I still struggle with it. It's not like it's easy to do that every single time. Sometimes you care about someone way too much. And that I've had that with family members. You care about them too much, and then you just forget about you and you just keep quiet. And then I also realized, like, that also doesn't help them. It doesn't help them becoming better, because now you're just accepting them for who they are, instead of saying, hey, I see you, I get you, but don't speak to me like that. Like, don't treat me like that. Like, it's setting up those healthy boundaries, which is so tough to do, so tough to do. But it's a necessity for a better relationship in friendships, family, relationships, anything. It's a necessity, which I didn't realize, because that's not the way I was brought up, you know. And not to say that it's a bad thing, it's just the era. It's something we never considered, you know. You're always like, oh my gosh, you're depressed. Like, oh, you know. And now realizing what depression is, what comes with it, what anxiety is, you know. I'm not using it as a crutch, because I find a lot of people nowadays use it as, oh my gosh, I'm so filled with anxiety. I'm like, do you even know what it is? Do you really, like, just because you're scared of something, that's being scared. It's not anxious. Like, you need to use the correct terminology for what you're feeling, you know. My worst is when someone says, I'm depressed today. I'm like, no, you're sad. You're not depressed. Depression isn't a choice. It's not like, hey, today I'm depressed, tomorrow I'm not. It's literally a chemical imbalance that people suffer with. You know, you can't just use it lightly. And I feel like people need to start, as much as everyone's open-minded and as much as everyone's so in tune with their feelings nowadays, I feel like it's so quick to use it as a crutch. So quick. Oh, I need a day because I just can't. I'm, you know, depressed. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, yes, acknowledge to you being down and let's work through it, but your whole life can't stop. It really can't. And I think with the more people using it as an excuse, my worst is ADHD. Oh my gosh. That is like the new, I don't know, something in the new crutch that everyone's like, ADHD. I have ADHD. I don't know anything different from ADHD. So therefore, it's normal. Like, it's so normal. Yes, things are a little like tough, but that's how I've lived my life the whole time. So it doesn't, I don't know, maybe it's not as severe as other people's, but I just don't like crutches. Like, don't use it as a crutch. If you're down, take a day, but don't use it continuously. And I feel like a lot of people like get into that, be like, I'm this or I'm that, and I'm like, okay, but let's work through it. Do you know how to work through it? Do you know, like, let's talk about it. Let me give you my opinion. Let's have a conversation. And people are scared to have the conversation because they already know. They're not blind. You know, they already know that I'm using it as a defense mechanism or whatever. So, yeah,
This is true. I mean, like through my high school career, I was guilty of it as well, because you fall into that of you hear these stories from America or other side of the attention part of it. That's what people crave is, oh, that person has depression. It's like, oh, look at all the attention they get. So then the next person says, oh, I also have depression, or I'm an anxious person, so I fiddle. And the excuses are true. The crutches are there. And I wonder where that does come from. Like you said, you are someone that struggles with those things, like truly diagnosed. And it must be such a rough thing to see that, not for anything attentive, but it's such a false image of what a serious condition it is or a serious issue that it is in life. And where that develops, who will ever know? It's a big high school problem. And I don't see it as many people carrying it in now. I see more the ADHD side, like you say. And when you spoke about boundaries, it is true. Boundaries, friendships, relationships, people in general, you do have to separate and say, listen, this is how I need to be treated or I want to be treated. I will not tolerate if you're overstepping that. I think I saw a quote of hard on myself but tolerate others, because at the end of the day, it is you. You got to be hard on yourself of the person you want to be, the morals you want to have, the boundaries you want to set, because if they don't align with your life, what's the point of holding on to them if they're not going to make anything better? But then with that, it's a very similar thing to a topic I want to discuss of, I hear it a lot, girl friendships. A lot of people make this thing like girls are this snarky little friendships and circles where all of that kind of happens, like boundaries are crossed or lies are thrown around or excuses are made, not to separate from the genders. I just know, I can admit, me as a man, I'm a very simple creature. Like I'm very, very simple. But when I hear some of the things through my friends or families, a lot of it is really harsh. And I know you even say you've been in several situations. Where do you think that comes from, or your experiences of how hectic that is?
I think women specifically, we're just more emotional creatures. We really, really are. Like you were saying, you're very plain and simple. And the boy brain and the girl brain, I thought weren't so different. They are very different. They very much so are. And girls can be snarky. They can be bitchy. They can be manipulative. I mean, we all can. I think it also just depends with the girls that you surround yourself with. You need to find that niche of the people that are not threatened by you, but that rather like praise you and your strengths and everything in those kinds of friendships. And I've been in many situations where like I'll be like, oh my gosh, I thought you hated me, and she goes, oh my gosh, I thought you hated me, and we actually don't hate each other. There was actually nothing. To be brutally honest, there was nothing. It was all in our minds before we'd even known each other's names. Not to say that we're best friends now, but I mean, I think it is also like a territorial thing for girls. Like, I think everyone has a level of insecurity in whatever they experience it in, whether it be communication, whether it be the way they look, whether it be the way they're acting, or whatever it is, and you kind of feed into that. So then you're like, okay, she's prettier than me. Oh, she mustn't be nice. There has to be something wrong with her for you to feel comfortable around her. And it's actually very sad. And I've noticed girls generally, I don't know about guys as much, but girls are so quick to break others down, like other girls down, instead of just like praising and supporting them, being like, you know what, yes, you are prettier than me. Yes, you are skinnier than me. Yes, you're actually nice, Girls are very quick to spread rumors about other girls instead of just being like, hey, where does that come from? Why? I'll be honest, when I was younger, I was also part of that. I can't say it's normal because it shouldn't be normal. Like, something so destructive shouldn't be normal, but it is quite normal. If you watch like little videos now going around of, there's nothing, sorry, I'm pivoting from that, but it's coming back. There's nothing worse for me than watching women fight, for like just fighting, not as a sport, not as a, anything in that line, because there are a lot of women that partake in like martial arts and boxing, and that's their profession essentially. But like actual just like fist fighting, and I'm just like, you're still a lady though. Like, Why are we pushed to that? I don't want to be a man. I have different qualities and different strengths that a man can never have, and vice versa. I do truly believe that. And it's sad to see that girls are now partaking in that aspect as well. And I'm just like, but where's your womanhood gone? You know, if someone's done you wrong, walk away. Literally walk away. That is the best thing you can do. Is don't revenge is always sweet, you know, until it happens and you're like, okay, well, cool, that's done. And then you don't think about it again. There's no point in revenge. And it's very sad. I feel like women need to start supporting each other a lot more. I'm not saying be oblivious to the bitchiness or the manipulation, but I do think they need to support each other a lot more, because they just don't. Like bro code, which sometimes doesn't exist, but is a lot stronger than what girls have. I don't, what is it even called? Woman code? I don't know. Girl code?
I wouldn't even know what it is.
Girl code. I think it's called girl code. But it's just like losing respect for one another. You're losing respect for a human. Literally a human. Doesn't matter which chromosome you have. That's what I wanted to say.
No, that's perfect. But you put it so well, as losing respect for a human as well. It's just, regardless of gender, sex, it is become more of a violent era of where there's constant fighting, there's constant abuse, emotionally or physical. And, you know, we only speak from perspectives, but, you know, the guys I bump into, I've never been in the crowd of the physical people, the ones that want to fight or want to get into trouble. I've been part of the guys that would like to talk it out and like, let's stay calm. But, you know, you see that from a perspective. And like you said with the girls, watching girls fight, it actually isn't something you really want to see. Some people, I don't know why, enjoy it. They're like, oh, cat fight. But to me, I've never found the point. Like you said, either ladylike or not, it just shouldn't be a situation you should be in. You are correct of people don't praise each other's wins. They more would doubt them and say, oh, they only got it because of, or, you know, there's always an excuse of why you can't be happy for someone else. And it actually shows the character you are. But then on that whole lining of it, speaking of the boys and girls, and maybe a crazy topic with everyone will have different perspectives. I think a lot of people want to know, what do girls and women want or need from a man, in your opinion? You know, of what do they look for, or what do they deserve, both sides of the coin?
That's tough, because it's also relevant to who you are and what you can give. I think communication is the best thing you can ever give a girl. I know a lot of girls that are overthinkers, and the best way to silence an overthinker is not to over-explain, but to give her that reassurance that she requires. Because over-explaining makes you seem dodgy. Then the overthinker is going to be like, why are you talking so much? What do you have to hide behind that? Because it just looks weird. So just normal communication, reassurance, you know, which I think any woman would love and appreciate, because what girl doesn't want to be made feel a little bit special, a little bit seen, you know? There's nothing more that I find like super attractive when a guy is proud of being with me. Do you know what I mean? Being like, that's my girl. Like that's, before you even introduce me, they need to know, like, that's my girl, you know? Because that's how I feel about my partner, is I want to be like, that's my guy. You need to know that's my guy. And I will tell everyone, because I want you to know who my guy is. And I think that is the one main thing, is what's been lost is when people get too comfortable too quickly. Just because you're comfortable doesn't mean that you need to give up trying to make her feel seen, and vice versa. It's literally a two-way street. This isn't only like from a girl's like perspective. Like, you also need to work hard at like making your guy to be seen, you know, small things, you know. Everyone is so focused on the bigger things, big gifts, elaborate things, and they lose sight of the smaller things. Because I mean, my bank account doesn't allow me to be elaborate all the time, so I can't do the big gestures. But it's the small things like buying their favorite chocolate or, listening to, okay, they like flowers. I'll buy them a flower, whether it's one, whether it's not. You don't have to buy them a flower. You can pick a flower off the side of the road. For me, it's those small things that mean way more because it shows that you're invested, you're listening, communicating. That is like the epitome of communication, is remembering like, oh, okay, that's what she likes, or that's, how she acts when I do that, I think communication is a big thing. It's something I struggle with, like big time. Communication is something I had to learn how to do. I still struggle with it, but it's something I'm actively working on. It's something I'm aware of. And sometimes I do over communicate. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, here's all the information, do with it what you want. I still have to fine tune it and to be like, okay, you need to know that you need to take from that, and you need to know that, and all of it's tough. It's tough to navigate around because there is no recipe. There is none. And each person expects something different. But I think once you start realizing what you both can give, it makes it easier. Because what I expect and what you expect is two different things. But if we can realize where the happy medium is, then it can start flowing and be something beautiful.
That is amazing. You put into a good perspective of, yes, there is no recipe and everyone is different, but that main thing you said of everyone wants to kind of be thought about, to be shown off that like, this is the person I'm with, this is the person I love, the person I want to be with, or this is how I think of you, like the flower reminded me, the flower reminded me of you, or like, hey, the song popped up, remind me of you. It's the small thoughts, which is absolutely magical, because I think people have lost that touch as well. They do expect the big fancy things, or this romantic date, or they don't want a cheap meal, they want an expensive one. But it comes down to the point of it is, hey, I want to take you out. It may not be the greatest thing, but let me treat you. And towards that part, it's also, do you think modern day, or even whatever you've seen of relationships, people end up separating because of the loss of independency? With those sort of things, like they realize and kind of become aware of, okay, now I'm kind of relying on someone, or something is now interrupting my routine, or, the change that comes with it.
You know what? Yes and no. Because I had this discussion actually like a couple of months ago with a family member, and she was saying like she feels like a lot less independent. And I'm just like, I get that, but also your priorities have now shifted because now you have a family. But I think that's where a great partner comes into play, allowing the person to have their independency in a different form. I think that's something that you need to discuss when you're in like a marriage or a very long-term relationship. It's something that I feel like you do need to discuss, because it's something I'm going to struggle with, because I am very, very independent, maybe overly independent. And it's to find that happy medium of like letting go of certain things, because now I have someone to catch me. I don't have to be that for myself anymore. So I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of relationships end because of the loss of independence. I feel like they have a narrow-minded outlook on what independence can be, because you can be independent in other aspects with a partner. You can still have those, I don't even know what examples to give you right now, but there is a different form of independence you can create, but you also need to wrap your mind around it, though, is to bring yourself that like, oh, I always used to do this. Yes, you used to do that when you were single, and you didn't have someone that cared about you and is willing and wants to be your rock, so I think you just need to channel it in a different way. Independence doesn't mean that you have to be alone. You can still be independent with someone. You really can.
Yeah, that's a great one, because a lot of people do think independency is alone. And you say you're very independent, almost overly so. I kind of find more so now that people are less independent. you know, when they do become independent, it's because of something that's happened. You know, it's because they lost someone or someone betrayed them or trust was broken, that they say, you know what, it's me and me only. And then they kind of turn independency into loneliness. They want to be excluded and just by themselves. How did you get into that independency? How do you do that without like a heartbreak? Because you must have been independent from young, being able to go to the flight attendant, to doing your own business, to just the way you carry yourself gives us very, not that you don't need anyone, but that you don't need anyone.
Yeah. I think it comes from my parents, you know, it's a very like skewed way of growing up, but for me it's normal. Is they were never married. They weren't separated. They just were never married. I never lived with my dad. I lived with my mom, and I lived together across the road from my dad. So it's not like, you know, worlds apart. And then throughout my like growing up, we ended up moving all in together. And my dad is also very independent and a go-getter, and he's always the one like pushing me to be, you know, don't take something new, take something old, make it new, because if you can't afford it, then you still have something. You still have something great, you know. My mom was also very independent. She's been independent since like when she was young, just from her upbringing and all of that. But I don't know actually how it just came about. Like I learned those attributes from them, and I just realized when I was 18, I was like, I don't want to live with my parents anymore. I love them, but I'm gone. I don't want to be here. And I literally left. And then I went to Joburg and I started studying, and it's so much easier for me to do stuff by myself than to wait on someone else. I think it's also the impatient like quality that I have, is like, I don't want to wait for it to be done. If I can do it now, why can't I do it now? You know, I'm not a damsel in distress. I want to do it myself. And I think that's just how it came about. And my parents are a lot older, so they can't do the same things like all the young parents can, you know. So I think it's a little bit of both. Is I just ended up doing things by myself, by watching how other people do it. And also because I can save money and because it can happen quicker. I don't have to wait for somebody to change a tire. I don't have to wait for someone to, if a tile breaks, I know how to tile. I don't have to wait for someone to put up a shelf for me. I can do it myself. I know what to do, how to do. And it also just, you can get shit done. I think that's it. I actually don't know. I really don't. But yeah.
But it's good. I think despite you not knowing the aspects or the steps it takes or the realizations do add and opens up like your eyes, you know, realizing that yes, you can get someone to do it for you, but the waiting part is what kills, you know. And I know my dad always says, not the whole, if you want something done right, do it yourself, but he always puts in perspective of, there's someone out there less talented but working harder to do it of something you can't do. So that's why you always want to do something by himself or learn how to do it. And eventually it's not even that he'll do it forever, he will now groom someone else to do it. So it does build that whole, you gaining skills, you gaining knowledge, you knowing how to carry yourself. If things go wrong, you don't have to rely on other people. And I think that's where people miss the line of independency. It's not you want to be alone and be away from people, because of what independency is. You can do things for yourself and carry your life forward without having a crutch of someone or someone bringing you down. Not that they do, even if it's a partner, but just that fear of it. But it's not necessarily a fear. It's just you could do it. You'll be fine before them or after them. Something I did want to touch on from your perspective, what would you tell young women and girls, you know, like for life and navigating and lost and confused, you know, people that just feel like they're behind, even though you may feel it, just what you want to leave the female viewers with?
Nobody has it figured out. If they look like they do, they still don't. I think that's what a lot of people, not just females, I think a lot of youngsters need to realize, that it's okay to not have it figured out. I'm not saying don't go just sit at home and just chill. I'm saying it's okay to not have it all figured out in the beginning, because chances are that you're going to change your mind is 100%. I know so many people that have studied law and are now in marketing that are doing like complete opposites in their life. So it's okay not to know how to navigate through life. It's okay. It really is, because it's a learning curve for everyone. Don't get consumed by the appeal that social media says you should be at the age of like 21 or 30, or you don't have to reach those like levels at that time. Everyone's journey is different, and you know what, a lot of people are so focused on, I should be doing this and this and this and this, and they forget to actually just enjoy life. They forget to actually just be young, to be in the time where like you don't have that much responsibility. If your debit orders are a medical aid and your cell phone bill, enjoy it, because it only gets more consuming. And you know, one of my friends told me, you know, especially with the business, because it's stressful, it's so stressful, and they're like, don't forget to enjoy the journey. And it's tough, but it's so true, because it goes by so fast. Whether failure, whether success, you forget so quickly, you know, what you're going through, the roller coaster ride. And I think the only thing I can leave behind is to say that just enjoy it. Literally just enjoy it, because it does go by so fast. And everyone thinks it's a joke when you're like, you know, you're only young once. You really are. I mean, my 20s were not that of a normal 20-year-old. I was thrown more into like a responsible like time, and I wasn't that carefree, let's do shit, let's get drunk, da 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 da. I did get drunk, but I wasn't that carefree. I was always uptight, always scared, and I never enjoyed it. I don't have those silly stories being like, oh my gosh, we did this and this and this and fell into a bush, and I don't have those stories. And you know what, looking back, I'm like, why don't I have those stories? Because you know what, I was young. I know better now. If I do it now, then I'm going to judge myself, because like I should know better. But it's just, don't grow up too quickly. That's not saying don't be responsible. I'm not saying that at all, but just generally don't grow up too quickly. There's too much in life that is beautiful and is great. It's great to be in the moment. It sounds so cliche, but it's really, really important. And stop and look up at the sky every now and then. Like, really do. It's beautiful up there.
I was just about to say, like, presence is such a massive thing, and I just had this on the last episode, speaking about presence and how much it matters in environment, whether you're by yourself or with friends or family or just in an experience. You know, a lot of us aren't present. Then to touch on your responsibility part, and you know, I wanted to link it to a topic I wanted to speak to you about, was responsibility and accountability as a person. You know, a lot of people don't take accountability when they're in the fault, or won't take responsibility. They'll always think, how did this person mess up? But what part do you actually play involving that? You know, whether it be you riled them up to get that reaction, or you knew this was going to upset them, or this mistake had happened before, you could have avoided it by, you know, moving something away from whatever spills, etc. Where your opinions on that, of how you've had to learn accountability and responsibility? I know it started from a young age. I feel with what you've just said now, a lot of people feel like they should be accountable, should be responsible at such a young age. Like you said, everyone's standards and levels are different. You know, for yours, how did that start growing, and how did you learn and take that on?
I think, honestly, being a flight attendant taught me accountability. That I'm not perfect. I'm not always right. I'm not as great as what I think I am, you know, and to realize that I do mess up, I do make mistakes. And the best form of apology is literally saying, I'm sorry for what I did, you know, and knowing why you apologize. Like my mom always said to me, don't say sorry if you don't mean it. And accountability is tough. It is so tough, because realizing that you made the mistake it's putting your pride in your pocket and just being like, you know what, it's me. Like, it really is me. I learned accountability rather late, and not from young. From young, I was like, I'm right. Even if I'm wrong, I'm right. Trust me, I will fight you to the death, and I will still be right. I don't care how much proof you have, I am right. And that got me nowhere. It literally got me nowhere. It just makes you unliked and not a very approachable person. And you know what? I actually found it's easier just to take accountability for when you're wrong, because you know what? You can work with that. You can fix that. You can't fix if you don't take accountability. You can't be better. You can't fix a situation. You can't achieve anything because everyone's like, oh my gosh, she's such a bitch. I don't want to talk to her. She's not going to hear me. And moving into a leadership role in being a flight attendant, you had to realize when you are right and wrong. And I sometimes in the leadership role, I was like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. Not like I am the leader here. You know, I was like, I'm sorry, I snapped at you. It's not you, it's me. It was a circumstance, and I apologize. And I'm talking about immediate acknowledgement. You know, you do need to take accountability for it. Like, there's certain things that you can be like, oh, damn it, that was wrong. Apologize then. Don't take long. Don't take too long, because if you take too long, then it just doesn't seem as genuine, because it's not a reaction. It's literally, oh, okay, I did this, I did that, you know, trying to weasel your way out of, but was I really wrong? Was I really, really that wrong? So yeah, it's just taking accountability is practice, absolute practice. You need to choose what you want to deal with. Do you want to deal with being a liar and not open-minded, or if you want to deal with like, shit, I fucked up?
No, of course. I mean, because you are right, accountability is hard. No one wants to accept that they're wrong, even if they believe it or not. And with accountability, it is putting that pride to the side of, let me get over this. I can't be right all the time, because there's a stage where it starts affecting someone else's life. And whether or not you like it, that person may develop that feeling of, I'm always fucking up, I'm always the problem, whether they notice it. But it's up to you to also be like, hey, listen, I did play a massive role, even if it's the smallest role of, I said something that I shouldn't have said to another person that affected you. You know, it's small things, you don't have to do it, but it is better to do it because your conscience is also clear. You know, you don't have to sit on that guilt of, that was because of me, but I'm going to make that person feel like it's because of them.
Yeah.
And coming to the final thoughts and closing thoughts, I just wanted to know, you know, from your side of what you want to leave the world with, any advice, any quotes, any feelings you have to spread, and what you think of the overall topics being spoken about.
There are two quotes that I absolutely love. And the one is, nobody is you, and that's your superpower. And I think people need to start realizing that you being you is such a superpower, because there are very few people that can be authentically themselves. And it's sad, because when you get to see that part of someone, it's so much better than like the pretentiousness that, or the facade that people put up. And I think people need to have more faith in that. Like, you are a superpower, just you being you. Because best part is, there is no one like you. There genuinely isn't. That's how we all made, is super different and super special in our own way. And I think people lose that because they want to be like everyone else. There's nothing unique about that, and that's just boring. And then the other quote, which is not such a happy one, I need to find the words now, is, oh, what is it? What you believe is stronger than the truth. And that cuts super deep, in the sense that sometimes it can go both ways. Once someone's made up their mind about you and you are who they think you are, it doesn't matter what you say, what you do, you will not change their mind. And sometimes it's not worth it. It's not worth trying to get that validation from that person, even though you will seek it more, because they're not giving you the validation that you require. And the other way that it cuts is, reflecting on yourself. Sometimes you believe something to be true and it really just isn't. And it ties back into that you're really not that special in everyone's life. You know, you're not the pinnacle of their life. And yeah, those are two quotes that I absolutely love and try and live by. I think I got the one down, which is the first one, but the second one is rather harsh, but it is a good harsh. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for being on the episode. I really appreciate it.
Yay, that was so much fun.